welcome to a celebration that was started not just in Chicago, but was done throughout the entire state, from Adams County to downstate, to Decatur, to Jefferson, to Sangamon County, to dealing with all the 103 counties that we have here in the state of Illinois. This coalition and a bunch of individuals that are allies all got together when they said it couldn't be done. We'd like to welcome you, because you're the individuals who helped us to make this happen. When you talk to your members in your families, when you talk to them people at your churches, when you talk to the people at the dry cleaners, when you talk to that old lady that sits in the front of your church, that would throw holy water on you every chance she got, but you would steal her son or her daughter. We talked to them people. We made sure that those legislators understood that's what happens with 60 votes. So tonight, we are here as a group. That group is what is considered grassroots, and I do mean grassroots. For those who don't know what that means we have a whole lot of money. Okay, we had very little money. We beg, borrow, some would say steal. We also had institutions. It was a potpourri of different groups and different people who all wanted to deal with the same thing. We're saying thank you tonight for the Urban League, for Affinity, for Chicago Black Gay Men's Caucus, for so many of these different groups here that I'm not even going to start to begin that process. I'm just going to say thank you and welcome and have a good time tonight, because this is just starting. Contrary to popular belief, we can get along for some time. The Illinois United Marriage Coalition, we got all kind of people here. This is a good thing. This is a thing that's we've been trying to do ever since March, to my knowledge. When that first African American group came down there, ragtag, but got down there, okay, and basically said, Mary Flowers, how come you don't know we exist? What you mean? Monique Davis? See? But I ain't gonna go there. So, welcome.
And thank you all for coming out on this chilly night. As Michael said, I'm Kim Hunt, Executive Director of Affinity Community Services. And Affinity is a social justice organization that works with and on behalf of Black LGBT communities, queer youth, and allies. And for the last almost 20 years, we have been intentionally housed on the south side of Chicago. Can I hear something for the south side? Hey, thank you. So, I'm going to spend a little time talking about Black communities' historical participation in the marriage equality movement. And this planning committee that put the program together tonight wanted to add this part to our program so that those of you who may be new to this movement for marriage equality and other things can get a sense of the history and how this has played out over time. As I say that, I also want to honor that marriage equality is not necessarily the top priority for many people in our community. We get that. It wasn't even the top priority for, thought the microphone went off. It wasn't even the top priority for Affinity, but we were in it because of the economic implications for families and the need to recognize our families. So, Illinois became the 16th state, along with the District of Columbia, to allow same-gender loving people to get married when Governor Pat Quinn signed Senate Bill 10, also called the Religious Freedom and Marriage Fairness Act, or SB 10, into law last week. We would have been the 15th state, but Hawaii snuck past us when their legislature passed the law this month. Their governor signed it, and their law actually goes into effect December 2nd. Here, marriage becomes legal for same-sex couples on January 1st of next year. June 1st, I'm sorry. That would be nice. We were trying, I may have spoke that into reality. We'll see what happens. So the fight for marriage actually goes back to the 70s, but it's interesting that Hawaii is now one of the states that allow same-sex marriage, because there was actually a case in Hawaii in the mid-90s that led to Clinton and the Congress passing, don't ask, the Defense of Marriage Act that the Supreme Court weakened this summer. Woo! Yeah. But I'll jump back to recent history in Illinois. So beginning in 2011, same-sex couples could have civil unions. In this state, civil unions allow couples to have all the rights that married heterosexual couples have at the state level. Civil unions have no impact on federal law. That means no Social Security, no ability to sponsor your partner if your partner is a foreign-born person, and a host of other family protections. And at the end of 2012, organizations and individuals were asked to join a coalition to get marriage equality legislation passed in this state. In the beginning of 2013, SB 10 was introduced by the chief sponsor, Senator Heather Stearns. Let's hear it for Heather. And on Valentine's Day of this year, SB 10 was passed in the Senate. And although the legislation was approved in a relatively short period of time, it wasn't without casualties. Since we're focused on Black people's involvement in the marriage fight here, you should know that the members of the Black Caucus in the Senate who supported the bill took a lot of flack from ministers who were opposed to marriage, and they're still taking flack from those groups, along with other folks. I heard that. So then, after the bill passed in the Senate, it had to go to the House. And that's when things got really interesting, right? So Representative Greg Harris became chief sponsor of the bill. Let's hear it for Greg. Black clergy for and against the bill demonstrated their views in person and via phone, emails, letters, and social media. The Chicago Urban League was a very early supporter, along with other left-leaning institutions. And there were many discussions with legislators and their constituents to get the 60 votes necessary to pass the bill. Affinity, along with Mike O'Connor, went to Springfield in March to talk to members of the Black Caucus about the bill, and were told about the robocalls that Reverend Meeks was kind of spearheading to put the pressure on the Black legislators to not vote for the bill, and that they weren't seeing very many Black LGBTQ constituents coming to talk to them about the bill, which gave them the ability to say that this wasn't an area of interest for Black LGBT people. So after that trip, and even on the way back, Mike and I were on the phone strategizing, calling people all the way back to Chicago. And one of the things that happened is that Ben Montgomery helped to organize a bus of Black LGBTQ people. And that busload of folks was called the All Families Are Equal Coalition. And they went to Springfield to talk to members of the Black Caucus. And I would add that that was a group of about 30 or more people, and there were transgender and youth people on that bus too, so we had a wide range of folks. Affinity, the Chicago Urban League, Lambda Legal also talked about the importance of marriage for same-sex couples, especially Black ones, and other issues several times on WVON. Woo! That's, I could write a book about that. In WBEZ, many of our organizations wrote letters in support of SB 10 and encouraged our members and constituents to contact their representatives to voice their support for the bill. The Chicago Urban League also hosted a community forum to update folks on what was happening with the bill about a week before the end of the spring legislative session. And some of our white brothers and sisters came to the south side of the Chicago Urban League. That was a moment. We have pictures. So as we know, despite our efforts and those of many, many others, on May 31st, the last day of the session, Representative Greg Harris spoke from the House floor saying that he would not call the bill because the votes were not there. He vowed to call the bill during the fall veto session. One of the things that happened is the following week, Affinity issued a public statement calling for more inclusivity in the next phase of the work. There was a lot of anger, sometimes some racial undertones to some of the discussion about the Black Caucus not stepping up in particular, and a tremendous amount of frustration because space had not been made for small organizations and community members and allies to engage in the fight. But for as disappointing as that was, it gave the community a chance to regroup and the lead organizations and individuals in the campaign a chance to rethink its strategies. Affinity, the Chicago Black Gay Men's Caucus, the Lighthouse Church, United Black Pride, Adobe, and other Black LGBTQ leaders and allies were brought to the table early on to discuss how to do this better. A revamped Illinois Unites for Marriage Coalition staffed for a real campaign was created. The Chicago Urban League joined the steering committee and housed the Illinois Unite staff. I don't know if many people knew that, but that's what the staff was. Black LGBTQ leaders were consulted on messaging, hosting the screening of The New Black, a documentary about Black involvement in the marriage equality fight in Maryland, asked to find couples of color to feature social media. Ooh, that was a job. And as well as traditional media. Black clergy stepped up to join the fight in even greater numbers. Progressive allied organizations stepped up. There were media buys on Black radio. I don't know if some of you heard those ads on WVON. And organizations sponsored phone banks and letter writing campaigns and kept their members and constituents informed and engaged. And it must be said that a real game changer was the March on Springfield. The brainchild of So when Tracy invited me to coffee to talk over a new idea, I knew it was going to be big, and oh boy was it. There were over 5,000 people who showed up on that cold, rainy day on October 22nd. Affinity's bus was one of more than 50 that came from across the state.
Yes.
Studs for Life, that remember that? Organized members, and they were definitely on our bus, loud and proud. They even got to tour the vault in the treasurer's office.
Yeah.
It was empty, don't worry. So, and a couple of things converged to ensure that there were Black LGBTQ people and allies in Springfield on November 5th. Marquel Smith and the Inclusive Community Project have planned the Communities of Color Lobby Day, and Illinois Unites have been working with Black LGBTQ leadership to organize meetings with legislators on that day. But instead of going to all those meetings and lobbying or educating legislators, as we like to say, as 501c3s, we made our way to the House Gallery. And we were there when SB 10 was introduced, debated, and passed. This is definitely a win for our communities, but it hasn't come without cost. Earlier this year, the Illinois Coalition for Immigrant and Refugee Rights made a public statement in support of marriage equality. Yeah. And its members were defunded by the Catholic Campaign for Human Development. Fortunately, Crossroads is housing the Solidarity Fund, which was set up to take donations to help ICER members cover their funding gap. The majority of members of the Illinois Black Legislative Caucus voted for this bill, despite what people said. And we need to support those who have supported our community. They stepped up against significant odds. The churches that were against this bill have revved up their opposition. Some of the Black legislators who supported this bill are going to have well-funded challengers who are against LGBTQ rights in the next election. So we encourage you to call your state representative and senator to thank them for supporting their right to marry, whether marriage is on your mind right now or not. So that's a quick and dirty history that will be written in greater detail.
The Chicago Black Men's Caucus. I wanted to point out to you that there are some sheets that are around the room, different spaces, and definitely right at the end of the hallway as you're heading out. This particular group of folks, Representatives Kim, Marquel, Benjamin, Michael, Karan, and many of you know the names, and I'm forgetting somebody. Solomon, And I'm looking at people, and I'm like, wait, I shouldn't have even started that list. But representatives from my district here. Here's the thing. So all of these folks, we've known each other in many cases for a long time. We love each other. We respect the work that we do together, but independently in the community. Marriage is what brought many of us together to work as a, informal coalition, if you will. And it was interesting because when we went down to Springfield, one of the things that we heard was, wow, this is what it takes to get you guys to work together, right? And so we heard that message. And I think it's important to stress that, we recognize the value in numbers, the power of community, the strength and the power in working together. And so we want to continue to work together, to look at marriage almost as a catalyst for what other kinds of public policy issues that are unique and important to the Black LGBT community, right? So, right now, we're kind of making some preliminary plans. We're looking at December 21st, which is a Saturday, from 10 to 1, 3 hours, at the Chicago Urban League, where we can get together and to begin conversations on really umbrella topics, right? What you'll find on this sheet, for example, the 3 umbrella topics: criminal justice and safety, right? We know that these are issues that are important to the LGBT community. They're issues that are important to the African American community. And so we in this room live at that very unique intersection. And so it provides us an opportunity to address those. You'll see some examples here. The same thing with health. The same thing with economics. What we'd like for you to do is look at the sheet. If you've got questions you want asked or additional topics or suggestions that you want to share with us as we plan, please share them on this sheet. There's a smaller piece of paper that you can use as a save the date. So thank you very much for your attention. Michael.
Just for starters, let's give a real huge shout out in terms of somebody who's a lobbyist, who's actually a legend in this state, who helped us to get across that path, who is actually, he's president or vice president of Citizens Action of Illinois, William McNair. This man has been about business of us for quite some time. We also have the commissioner for Chicago's Commissioner on Human Relations, Moni. I've been calling her Moni for 100 years. Where's Moni at? Noriega. Yes. Give her a shout. Now, I'm not gonna, our next guest, but before we bring our next person on, this person, let me just say this. When we talk about safety and criminal justice, we're talking about the fact that they have a mandatory minimum now that's going to put people who look like us in jail, people who are of color, regardless of who you sleep with, unnecessarily, to feed whole other economics outside. Why are you telling me to hurry up? So let me just say,
I'm delighted to stand here and to appreciate and applaud and celebrate marriage equality in Illinois with you, with our community. And this really does feel like family. So let's just give ourselves a big hand. And before I talk a little bit about my work with the campaign, I think it's important for us to acknowledge our field director, Karan Blair. Karan Blair. Come on, Karan. Karan has done a tremendous job in leading this campaign and doing the field work, the actual work that it took to make this campaign possible. And I just really appreciate him. I came to know him in this work, and I have appreciated him and love him as a brother. And so I had a wonderful opportunity to serve as state director for the campaign, which meant that I was hired to be an outreach, particularly to the African American community, to raise voices, to identify voices amongst clergy who are pro-marriage equality. And that was important because, as has already been mentioned, the voices of the past were sort of saying that, black folks were against marriage equality. And we needed to send a different message that black folks are not monolithic on this issue. And so in order to do that, we were able to go out and get support from clergy within our community, not only LGBT clergy, but also allies who were very, very supportive. And there are a number of them. I will not take time to go through all of those names, but I would like to mention the names of those who are actually in the room tonight. And let me say that all of our work was done based upon the fact that we stood on the shoulders of others who were willing to put their lives, their livelihood, their churches, their positions on the line to stand up for us for marriage equality. And so I'd like to mention that Kevin Tyndall is one of the ministers. Reverend Terrence Miller. Pastor Charles Strait, who pastors the Faith United Methodist Church, is in the room. And Brenda Lee is not in the room. She intended to be here tonight, but she is not feeling well. She and her partner, S. Lee, were really, really instrumental part of this campaign. So I'd like to acknowledge in her absence, Brenda Lee. I hope that I am not missing anybody in this room. I do want to send a special shout out to Pastor Jamie Frazier. And that is important because Pastor Frazier is the pastor of the Lighthouse Church of Chicago, and it is a group of individuals who are organizing and meeting on Thursday nights at the Glessner Museum at 18th and Prairie, and would welcome any of us who are looking for a community to worship with. It is a group of individuals who are serious about Jesus and serious about justice. And to prove that, not only did they work on the campaign and do various things to support the campaign, but they were willing to forsake Thursday night and become a call center. And so one night they didn't have worship, and they actually became a call center. So I want to send out a special thank you to you and to all of you.
Is good at making sure that we are all inclusive about what we do. With that being said, I'd like to bring up a young man that kind of took the city by storm in his own way. This was a guy who came out of nowhere, who basically started talking about, you know, I gave my time as a armed service person, and y'all not gonna tell me that I don't count. When they were talking about their don't ask, don't tell, and that whole deal, this young man went all the way to Washington and raised hell, and raised it well. And those pops out here in the back, everybody needs to be clapping. We got a hero in our midst.
I have some breaking news. I don't like this microphone. It makes me a little nervous. So I have some breaking news. I don't know, many of you may know Renita Gray and her partner, Patricia Ewert. I may be screwing up the last name. Please forgive me. But there's breaking news that they actually just got their marriage license today. So the courts have actually approved it. So what that means, I don't know. It was in the Tribune. And Ron gave me the great news. So
they don't have to wait till June.
They don't have to wait till June. So I think all y'all should line up in there. But my role here, and Abby, if you'd like to say anything, I want to please open these to do so, because you're cute.
Because I'm cute. Thank you, Marco.
Smart.
And smart. Thank you so much.
And wise women.
I'd just like to thank everyone for coming here this evening. I wondered when I saw the weather and the snow, I thought, we may not have a good turnout, but it is a wonderful turnout. And to see so many beautiful faces, I'm so glad, although my executive director has already acknowledged them, I'm going to do my own personal acknowledgement from one prez to the other prez. I don't know if she's listening right now, but Sons for Life, I just want to give them another clap up, only because when we were all preparing for the march on Springfield, it was so funny because we were blessed to use my brother's church, which is St. John's Baptist Temple on Woodline. And it was so amazing to see everyone come at such an early hour. And people were driving down. Michael was trying to direct them. I was trying to direct them. And people were driving down the one-way street the wrong way, just trying to get on the bus. And I said, Karen, they're going the wrong way down a one-way street. But people were like, I'm just trying to find the parking lot, right? And so Sons for Life were already there here waiting for entry onto the bus. So we've already clapped it up for them. But thank you all so much for coming out. I'm excited about being the interim board president. It's so interesting when I talk to people, they tell me, no, Ebony, you're not the interim board president, you are the president, right? Okay, so I guess I just have to walk in that way. But thank you so much, Marquel, and thank you so much, everyone, for coming out. And thank you, Michael. I want to give a special shout out to Michael because he allowed us, let me just say this, our bus, right? He allowed us opportunities that other organizations did not have, right? So we were able to look at the vault, but we were able to also have opportunities with various members of the caucus and various the governor's staff. We were able to have opportunities with Judy Bar Topeka. We were able to go into, okay, he said shh. Okay, he's being modest right now. But I just want to give a clap up for Michael because those opportunities were provided based on his hard work and dedication for the cause. And I want to thank Tracy, and she's here filming, and she's so modest herself, right? For even allowing us the opportunity for Affinity to be a part of that partnership for the March on Springfield. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my co-host, Marquel, so he can introduce our illustrious guests.
So I'm here to talk about the election and the politics. But before I get there, I want to tell you why I actually care about politics. Many of you may have heard Michael tell the story of me fighting for repeal Don't Ask, Don't Tell. That's because in 2006 I was discharged under the policy. Didn't care about politics. As a matter of fact, you're told when you're in the military, if something goes wrong, call your congressperson. And at the time, mine was a Republican. And so when I called that lovely Republican woman, Judy Bigger, she didn't want to support me, she didn't care. And so I learned that politics does matter. So for all of those of you who sit in this room and you have heard Kim talk about policy and all these public policy issues, I want you to take a moment and think about, don't think about the high level, but think about how it actually impacts you down to the lowest level. And that is why it's so important that we as a community get involved, because every day people are making decisions on behalf of us. And we don't get involved to ensure that they're doing the right things for each of us. So I want to impart that on you and recognize the electeds who are in the House who supported this bill. Right now we have in the House Senator Emil Jones. And then also, Representative Ken Duncan is not here, but I want to give a special shout out to Ken Duncan because he was the lead co-sponsor of this bill. Ken Duncan actually sponsored the bus that we took down to Springfield on the day marriage equality passed. So I want to give him the credit for that. And the last and final thing I'll say to you is that I'm also the founder of this organization called the Inclusive Community Project. It's a statewide PAC that works within communities of color to advocate for LGBT issues. And why is that important? Because as I talk about that elected process, we need to make sure that we're electing people that support our issues. And so as you think about this, you think about Senator Emil Jones, you think about the Ken Duncans of the world, and many more African American legislators who took this vote. They will not only need us to support them through fund financial resources, they're going to need people to knock doors, they're going to need people to donate money, and they need to we need to ensure that they win re-election. So if there's anything that I can impart on you, is to say take care of those who have taken care of us. And that is all my final remarks. Thank you guys.
Now when I say our community, I'm just not talking about GBLTQ persons, even though it was his father whose first name is up on the center of Halsted in terms of funding. This man, he comes from a long tradition of understanding the importance of giving back. As a graduate of Chicago State, I've seen his stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, he's only going to say a little. Illinois State Senator Emil Jones.
And I came out to say thank you to all of you all. The vote for me was easy, even though I have been threatened. People to run against me. Phone calls to my home, my cell phone, emails, all type of threatening stuff. But the vote was easy because it was doing the right thing, support equality. But I want to thank you all. You all did the hard work, knocking on doors, talking to your friends, talking to my constituents, it was you all working together. When I first got into office, I told a lot of my organizations, your voices is not going to be heard in Springfield unless you work together, band together. These were agencies that worked on youth violence prevention. So now I'm happy to see the LGBT working together. All these organizations coming together to get your voices heard in Springfield. Even though you all never did come lobby me, because I guess you already knew how I was voting on the legislation. But I want to send a big shout out to Michael. He has really stayed in contact with me over the years, updating me on the issues, inviting me out tonight, and just told me what was going on in the LGBT community. But again, this is just the beginning. There are many, many, many other issues that we all need to work on together. So I thank you for your support, and I look forward to working with you all. Thank you.
I was in Boston a week ago, and I had the privilege of, I was training some young folks who were trying to do some work next year around Freedom Summer. And during the middle of the training, they started to do all these chants about freedom and justice, and it dawned on me a week after we had won what exactly we were able to accomplish in Illinois. And in the middle of that, I sort of broke down and I started to cry, because I was like, together, and we ought to really acknowledge that, together we changed the course of history. And it is not often, it is not often that we get to say that. And so, when I was brought on as the field director, John Kohep, our campaign manager, asked me to build a field program that the representatives we were targeting would literally be afraid of. And that is what we did. And over 3 months, we made 50,000 unique contacts to representatives. We organized phone banks all across the state. In 1 week, we had about 45 phone banks up and running. We had hundreds of people volunteering. We had people knocking on doors. And then we had people meeting with their representatives to let them know that folks were serious about marriage equality. And one of the most prominent meetings, I remember a meeting with David Harris where we had this older, white, conservative woman, when David Harris talked about tradition, we had this woman say to him, she said, in this country, slavery was a tradition. And we had the courage to move beyond that. And so the work that we did was literally about making sure that in 20, 30 years, that's what people will say about not only our state, but about our country, that we got it right. And that the people in this room were a part of that. And I want to acknowledge, so the coalition was made up of a number of groups. We had, the chair of the coalition was Jim Bennett from Land Legal. Our campaign manager was John Kohep, who was on leave from AFSCME. We had the Civil Rights Agenda, the Human Rights Campaign, ACLU, the Chicago Urban League, Citizen Action Illinois, Land Legal, Equality Illinois, and Freedom to Marry. And those 8 groups came together to build what became Illinois Unites for Marriage. We hired in 7 days 20 field organizers, and we shipped them out across the state to work in 38 districts for 4 months. And tonight there are a few of them. Robert Schultz is here, one of the organizers who worked on the South Side. Damon Hayline is here, one of my deputy field directors. Damon is a data manager, a god among data managers. He handled all of our data, and there was a lot of data. I want to acknowledge Benjamin, who led our faith outreach and did a tremendous job of engaging people. When we realized that we needed some extra muscle to move our Southside program, we brought in William McNary and Jay Miner, and they ran our canvas scheme, and they knocked on doors in every corner of the south side of Chicago. Folks held them up with guns, but they kept knocking on doors to make sure that these reps knew that people all across the state were in support of marriage. And so I am so incredibly proud of the work that we did, and for every person who volunteered, that took time out of their day to volunteer. I want to thank you.
To introduce Representative Duncan. Are you going to play us like that? No. Representative Duncan has actually been a friend of ours, community, for a very long time. He goes all the way back to high school. One of the things I like him is because he hardly knew anything about me, and he supported a young black man trying to make a come up. And so not only did he support me, but he supported this entire community. So it's an honor and privilege to introduce our Representative Ken Duncan, head of the Black Caucus.
I'll be real brief and say congratulations on the black side of town. All right, and no side like the black side. This was a long time coming, and I told my colleagues to say, look here, we matter, you matter, because all of us are in this together. And what goes on for one side of our community, you running on the north side and sort of coming out or coming back home on the south and west side, where most of us live. It's that significant. And straight guys, us straight guys, can support all kind of good, great people, right? But it's not a bad thing. And that's it. I don't know any political campaign or any church or synagogue or mosque that can function without a good lesbian or homosexual. Believe you me. How you think most of us standing here? Some of my favorite friends, have a good time. You know it's a party when you're around great people. So I'm happy to have been a part of this and use and push and convince to make sure that all of us count. So congratulations to all of us, and I thank you.
Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Who wound up in a governor's office, helping him out down there until the, what was that, Katrina. He got out of town just in time, and he's here. He's now Vice President of Communications at the Urban League, in a long tradition of national black openly gay men who have made a difference. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to some and reintroduce to many, Mr. Roger Hawkins.
I will be brief because I know that you all want to dance, and DJ Laura Branch has been to just do the damn thing. I want to say personally, I moved to Chicago the first time, actually in 2001. I was 20 years old, and I was in Baton Rouge growing up there, and I knew that I wanted to be in a place where I could be fully me, where I could experience people that were out and open and proud of who they were. And Chicago, I found a job basically, and I said, okay, Chicago it is. And I found a wonderful place and a wonderful community of friends, some of them that are in this room right now. Even so, I'm not going to start naming names, so I'm going to forget you know who you are. People that I've known for over 10 years who are part of my surrogate family in Chicago. I moved back to Louisiana in 2004 to be the deputy press secretary to then Governor Kathleen Blanco. I moved back in 07 to work at the Chicago Urban League, which was it's been a wonderful opportunity. And a year ago, when we were approached by Land Illegal, my dear friend Jen Bennett there, about supporting the Marriage Equality Campaign, the lawsuit, as well as this Senate Bill 10, I kind of tiptoed into my boss's office, Andrea's office. I said, well, Andy, Randall Legal kind of doing this campaign, and they want the Chicago Urban to be a part of it. So she had her back turned to me at her computer. So she did one of those, Diane Carroll, Dominique Devereaux scribbles in her chair. You feel me? You feel me? I know some of y'all would know. You can't know, so don't have to know. But no. So she did a scribble in her chair, and she says to me, she looks at me, she says, why wouldn't we support this? And that was the answer. So it was a 15-second conversation, but we knew we were going to be involved, and we went full throttle. We were filed amicus brief for the lawsuit. We also pledged our support to the Senate Bill 10. and we were there. I went to Springfield for my first time down there. I'll admit it wasn't experienced, and there weren't enough black people there. So I'm so glad that there were, as Kim mentioned earlier, and Michael mentioned earlier, that African American LGBTQ folks did make it down to Springfield to speak out about this issue and how important this is to all of us. But for me, it was more than just about the bill. It was about people that I know and I love, people like David DeCourcy James, who is here, who after losing his partner, caught hell from the partner's family because they didn't have that marriage to keep things straight. I do this for my friends Brenda Lee and Lee Edwards, who are not here tonight because Brenda is sick, but a loving, committed Christian black couple who wants to get married and can and should get married. Now they have the right to do so. I do this for everyone in this room and not in this room who wants to enjoy their civil liberties as a human being to get married. If that's what you want to have. Mona and Yvette did it for y'all too. And I love you. I'm so glad you all are here too. Thank you, Commissioner. Everyone in this room who wants the opportunity to get married, you should have it. And now, because of all of us who are at the table, and especially people in this room, we now have that. So of course I'd be remiss if I did not thank our legislators who are here. Senator Jones, thank you. Representative Duncan, thank you. But all of you who got on those buses, who made those phone calls, everything that's been said already, but we can't say it enough. Thank you for being at the forefront of this movement and bringing the black and the brown voices to this movement. So let's not forget about our Latino brothers and sisters as well. Now, we've got this one done, but guess what? I'll quote Lisa Madigan, she said last week, we can celebrate right now because as soon as I'm done talking, Laura Branch is going to set it off. Party tonight, but guess what? Tomorrow, work begins. There's more work to be done. These legislators need us. They need us. And we need them to be involved in issues that impact all of our communities and having those conversations about issues that impact us all. Health and wellness, housing, jobs. Come on, how many of y'all need a job right now? Those who are looking for a job. How many of y'all know somebody that's facing foreclosure, right? How many of y'all know somebody who needs to stop paying all that rent money and buy a house? I mean, the same, student loan debts. All those things are issues that are important to all of us. And it's time for us to raise our voices on those issues as well. And the Chicago Urban League is proud to stand with our LGBT allies and our brothers and sisters on this issue, on all these issues that impact us. So we invite you to party right now. But tomorrow, December 21st, at the Chicago Urban League, be a part of the conversation, be a part of the solution. That's the challenge. That's my challenge. That's my request of all of you. Be engaged, stay engaged, be a part of what's going to happen next. Because there's so much more that we can accomplish. But staying united, we can pack a mighty punch in the state of Illinois. So let's keep on doing it. Let's keep on keeping on. Thank you all for all the work that you've done, and thanks for being here tonight.